up, everybody? This is Tech G back with another video, and in this video I'm going to be explaining to you exactly what the OSI model is in case you have no idea. So let's get into it. All right, so you probably heard someone mention the OSI model while studying for a CompTIA exam or in a tech meeting, or maybe even watching a YouTube video on networking. And let's be honest, the first time you hear it, it sounds like some complicated, mysterious formula only networking geeks can understand. But don't worry, because in this video, we're going to explain all of that stuff to you in simple, everyday language, whether you're an aspiring IT professional, a student studying for a certification like the CompTIA Network Plus, or just a curious tech dude or girl. Well, this video is for you. So let's go. All right, so exactly what is the OSI model? Well, the OSI model, this stands for Open Systems Interconnection Model. And I know it sounds fancy, right? But here's the deal. It's just a conceptual framework that helps us understand how data moves across the network, like the internet or your home Wi-Fi. It breaks down this data movement into 7 layers, each with its own specific function. And you can think of it as a layered cake or a stack of Lego blocks or even a mail delivery system. But every time you send a message, you stream a video, or you browse a website, your data is traveling up and down this OSI stack, whether you realize it or not. All right, so here's a quick overview of the 7 layers going from bottom to top. So the first layer is the physical layer, followed by the data link layer. Then you have network, transport, session, presentation, and application. And to help you memorize all of this, here's a mnemonic that you can use if you're going from the top to bottom. You can say, all people seem to need data processing. That will help you memorize it from top to bottom. Or if you're going from bottom to top, you can memorize it by saying, please do not throw sausage pizza away. All right, so now that we understand all of that, let's go ahead and break down what each layer actually does. All right, so we're going to start at the very top of this thing, which is layer 7, also known as the application layer. And this is the layer that you interact with directly. So anytime you send an email, you browse a website, or you use a messaging app, you're using the application layer. But here's the kicker. The application layer isn't the application itself. It's the interface between your application and the network. It provides services that enable applications to communicate over the network. And the protocols that are used are HTTP, HTTPS if you want to surf the internet. You got FTP for file transfer. You got SMTP, which deals with emails being sent. And then you have DNS, which deals with domain name lookups. And a real world example of this would be when you type in the world's greatest website, technologyg.com, into your browser, the application layer starts the process of getting that web page by using protocols like HTTPS and DNS. All right, so let's move on to layer 6, and this is known as the presentation layer. And this layer is like a translator or encoder. It makes sure that data is in a readable format for the application layer. So what does it do? Well, it translates data. So it converts data formats like JPEG, MP3s, and HTMLs. It provides encryption and decryption. So think of SSL and TLS. And it also does some compression like zipping files. And a real world example would be like when you go to visit a secure website that starts with HTTPS. The presentation layer handles the SSL TLS encryption that protects your data from prying eyes. So when you're doing your online banking, this is the layer that keeps your information safe. All right, next we have layer 5, and this is also known as the session layer. So this one's all about managing connections. So if the application layer is what you're doing and the presentation layer is how you're formatting it, well, the session layer is when and how long you're actually doing it. And what does it do? Well, it starts, maintains, and ends sessions. And it also handles session recovery if interrupted. So a real world example would be, let's say you're logged into a Zoom meeting. The session layer is what maintains that connection while you're chatting away. If your internet drops for a second and then reconnects, the session layer helps resume the session smoothly. All right, so moving on, we have layer 4, and this is also known as the transport layer. So now we're getting into the good stuff, because the transport layer, this controls how data gets from point A to point B. So think of it as the delivery driver, ensuring your data packages arrive safely and in the correct order. And its key responsibilities are as follows. It provides segmentation, and it basically splits data into smaller pieces known as segments. It also does flow control to avoid overwhelming the receiver. It checks for errors, and then it does retransmissions if needed. And the protocols that it uses are TCP, which stands for Transmission Control Protocol. And this protocol is reliable and it provides ordered delivery of your segments or your packets. And it also uses UDP, which is User Datagram Protocol. And this provides faster, quote unquote, transportation of your packages, but there are no guarantees that they will be delivered if they're delivered at all. And a real world example of this is streaming Netflix. So UDP will be used in this instance because it's used for speed. And then sending an email or loading a web page, well, this will use TCP because it ensures that the data gets there in full. All right, next we have layer 3, which is known as the network layer. And this layer figures out the best route for your data to travel. And it uses IP addresses to identify devices and routers to determine paths. So what does it do? Well, it provides logical addressing. So think of IP addresses, it does routing, and it forwards packets. And the protocols it uses are IP, such as IP version 4 and IP version 6. It uses ICMP, and that's used for pinging. And it also uses routing protocols like OSPF, RIP, and BGP. And an example of this would be when you ping a website using the command pinggoogle.com, they're actually interacting with ICMP at this layer. It's like asking, hey, Google, are you there? And then waiting for a reply. And next we have layer 2, which is called the data link layer. And this is where data gets prepared for physical transmission. And its key functions are, it deals with MAC addressing. So think of hardware addresses. It also deals with frame creation, error detection, and flow control at the local level. And it has 2 sub layers. The first one is LLC, or the logical link layer, and then MAC, which stands for media access control. And an example of this would be, let's say you're connected to your router via Ethernet. When you send a file to another computer on your network, the data link layer ensures it goes to the correct MAC address. All right, so that brings us to layer 1, which is the physical layer. And this is the lowest layer. This is where bits become physical, such as electrical signals, light pulses, or radio waves. And what does it include? Well, it includes all of your cables. We're talking about Ethernet cables and fiber optic systems. It deals with your connectors like your RJ45 or your coaxial connectors. It deals with your NIC cards or your network interface cards, your hubs, your repeaters, and any physical ports that you plug stuff into. And an example of this would be plugging in a Cat6 Ethernet cable. Well, that is the physical layer in action. All right, so here's a real life analogy to hopefully help this make sense. So think of it like sending a package. So let's imagine you're mailing a birthday gift to your friend in another city. When it comes to the application layer, this is you writing a birthday card and packing the gift. When it comes to the presentation layer, this is you writing the message in your friend's language. When it comes to the session layer, think of this as you going to the post office to drop off the package to be sent out. When it comes to the transport layer, this is the post office putting your stuff into a box and throwing it onto a delivery truck so it can make its way to your friend's house. When it comes to the network layer, this is the post office people or the driver deciding the best route to deliver your package. When it comes to the data link layer, this is the delivery truck checking addresses in your neighborhood to drop off that package. And when it comes to the physical layer, this is the truck driving on the road and delivering the package physically. So each step is essential for successful delivery, just like each OSI layer is for network communication. All right, so you might be thinking, okay, all of this sounds cool, but why do I need to memorize this? Well, that's a great question. Well, here's why all of this is important. One, it has to deal with troubleshooting. So this helps you pinpoint where a problem is, like, is it a bad cable or a DNS issue? It also has to deal with you getting certified because it is foundational knowledge for exams like the CompTIA Network Plus and the CCNA. It also has to deal with communication because this lets IT professionals speak the same language when solving network issues. It also has to deal with designing networks because this helps with planning hardware protocols and configurations. And it also helps with understanding protocols like how HTTPS uses multiple layers at once. All right, so let's quickly talk about troubleshooting with the OSI model. So let's say that your boss yells out that the internet is down. So exactly what are you going to do to fix this? Well, you're going to start from the bottom up, which is layer 1 through layer 7, or you can start from top down depending upon the symptoms. So here's an example scenario. So if the website's not loading, then you want to go check to see if the DNS is working, and that's going to be layer 7. If you cannot ping the gateway, that means there might be an IP issue, so you want to start at layer 3. If there is no link light on the Ethernet port, well, this could be a cable problem, and you want to start at layer 1. So basically, this model gives you a structured approach to troubleshooting instead of you guessing blindly to try to solve the problem. Now, another thing that you might hear about is called the TCP/IP model, which is the real world implementation of networking today. And it has 4 layers instead of 7. So it has the application layer, transport layer, internet layer, and the network access layer. And basically, the OSI model, this is more of a teaching tool, but many of its concepts, it still maps directly to the TCP/IP model. And so, even if the OSI model is a bit more theoretical, it still helps you understand the layers of TCP/IP. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap all this up. So, here's the truth: mastering the OSI model is like learning how the gears inside of a watch work. You might not need to think about it every second of the day, but when things go wrong or when you're trying to build or improve something, it becomes invaluable. So, here's what the takeaway: each layer has a role, so don't skip them. Troubleshooting does become easier when you think in layers. In certification exams, they will expect you to know this information. And understanding protocols like TCP/IP, HTTPS, and all the other ones that are out there, all of that stuff is easier with the OSI model in mind. So the OSI model, this might sound intimidating at first, but once you get to know it, it becomes your best friend in networking.